The sky split open with a flash of green light, tearing the quiet of a warm summer evening. Across Earth, people looked up, squinting against the sudden brightness that turned night into day. Some thought it was a meteor shower, others an aurora. But as the light faded, it revealed a sight that sent ripples of fear through the watching crowds. Dark, massive ships gliding through the atmosphere. They hovered over the major cities, casting long shadows that swallowed streets and skyscrapers alike, blocking out the sun and filling the air with a low, unending hum. The ship's sleek angular vessels, covered in a material that absorbed light, moved with eerie precision, forming a grid that spanned the globe. They seemed to float effortlessly, their surfaces shimmering with an energy field that crackled like distant thunder. In the heart of each ship, alien symbols glowed a deep, pulsing blue, emitting a light that made those who stared too long feel an unsettling chill. The invaders, known as the Zerothians, had traveled light years from their distant star system, seeking a world rich in resources. Earth, with its abundant water, diverse climates, and dense minerals, had caught their attention. To them, it was a world ripe for plunder, its people an insignificant obstacle. They had conquered many planets before, adding each to their empire with ruthless efficiency. Their scouts had observed Earth from afar, noting its vast oceans and lush forests. But the Zerothians did not see the vibrant life and culture of its inhabitants, only the potential to strip its resources and expand their dominion. As the alien ships settled over cities like New York, Beijing, and Cairo, they unleashed their technology upon Earth. From the bases of the hovering vessels, metallic spheres descended, each about the size of a small car, bristling with sensors and weapons. These spheres spread through the streets, projecting waves of energy that disrupted communication networks, rendering phones and radios useless. In an instant, the modern world was plunged into a communications blackout. Panic spread as news stations went dark and social media feeds went silent, leaving billions of people in the dark about the nature of the threat that had appeared above them. The initial human response was swift but disorganized. Military jets scrambled into the air, their engines roaring as they shot towards the alien ships. Tanks rolled through city streets, and missile launchers aimed skyward, ready to engage. But the Zerothians were prepared. As the first fighter jets approached their ships, the Zerothians activated their energy shields. Bullets, missiles, and even nuclear warheads struck the barriers with no effect, dissolving into flashes of light before dissipating into the air. The alien vessels, untouched, hovered in silent defiance, observing the chaos below with a detached curiosity. From within their ships, Zerothian commanders monitored the Earth's surface through translucent screens that displayed every detailed human movements, thermal readings, and energy signatures. To them, the humans' attempts at resistance appeared as little more than the desperate flailing of a lesser species. They issued commands in a language that buzzed and clicked, instructing their soldiers to begin the next phase of the invasion: subjugation. Zerothian troops, clad in armor that shimmered with the same dark energy as their ships, descended onto the surface in sleek pods that pierced the Earth like falling stars. They moved with mechanical precision, spreading out through the cities, using mind control devices to pacify the panicked crowds. The devices, resembling small, spider-like machines, scuttled across the streets and latched onto the necks of fleeing civilians. In seconds, the victims' eyes glazed over, their movements became stiff, and their voices fell silent. These once vibrant people now moved in eerie unison, carrying out the commands of their alien masters. Within hours, the Zerothians had turned Earth's most populous cities into silent, eerie husks. Streets that had been filled with the sounds of life now echoed with the hollow footfalls of controlled humans. Marching under the Zerothians' watchful gaze, where human soldiers once stood defiant, alien war machines now loomed, their dark surfaces reflecting the smoldering ruins of what had been human fortifications. From the perspective of the Zerothian leadership, Earth was all but conquered, its inhabitants either subdued or on the run. But, amidst the devastation, pockets of resistance began to form. Scattered groups of civilians, military stragglers, and those who had escaped the mind control devices gathered in hidden locations, abandoned subway tunnels, mountain hideouts, and dense forests. They shared stories of the aliens' tactics, their mind control devices, and their energy shields. Though they were outnumbered and outmatched, These humans clung to a determination born of desperation. They understood that they could not match the aliens' technology, but they could fight in other ways, through sabotage, through survival, and through sheer defiance. As night fell, the Zerothians regrouped in their floating command centers, confident that their conquest was nearly complete. Their leaders, studying Earth from above, saw a planet that was bending to their will, its people controlled or broken. Yet they failed to see the sparks of defiance kindling below the surface, hidden in the shadows of their own arrogance. In the ruins of a small town on the outskirts of London, a group of survivors huddled around a fading fire, discussing their next move. Among them was a former soldier, an engineer, and a teenage girl who had lost her family in the initial attack. "They think they've won," the soldier said, his voice low but steady. "But we're still here. As long as we're still breathing, we fight." In that moment, a resolve spread among the group, a resolve that echoed in similar gatherings around the world. They did not know it yet, but this defiance would become a thorn in the side of the invaders, challenging everything the Zerothians believed about their own superiority. The sky above remained dark, the alien ships blotting out the stars, but on the ground, a new kind of light began to flicker, a human spirit that refused to be extinguished. And as the night deepened, the Zerothians remained unaware that their greatest challenge was yet to come, hidden not in the weapons of their enemies, but in their hearts. In the aftermath of the invasion, the Zerothians settled into what they believed would be a simple occupation. Their advanced scanners monitored the cities, detecting any signs of resistance. But as weeks passed, small acts of rebellion began to surface, and their smooth conquest turned into something far more complex. At first, it was subtle downed power grids, disrupted communications between Zerothian outposts, or sabotage of their supply chains. The aliens dismissed these as isolated incidents, assuming that the human slaves they had under control were simply malfunctioning. But when a group of resistance fighters ambushed a Zerothian patrol in the streets of Los Angeles, taking out their mind-controlled drones with primitive yet effective explosives, the aliens realized they faced an organized threat. What truly baffled the Zerothians wasn't the weapons used, but the spirit of the humans who wielded them. Unlike other conquered worlds, where mind control and intimidation had crushed resistance within days, Earth's people seemed to grow more determined with each alien victory. Fear transformed into anger, and anger into a fierce, unyielding will to fight back. The aliens found themselves facing an enemy that did not know how to submit. The resistance fighters, led by a former military commander named Marcus Reed, had set up hidden camps deep within forests and abandoned subway tunnels. They communicated through coded radio signals, organizing coordinated strikes on alien supply lines and disrupting their technological dominance. Marcus understood that they couldn't defeat the Zerothians head-on, but he knew that they could make Earth an increasingly difficult place to occupy. Zerothian commanders began to study human behavior more closely, trying to understand what drove these creatures to keep fighting. But their analytical minds couldn't comprehend concepts like hope and unity. To the aliens, emotions were a sign of weakness, something to be suppressed. Yet in humans, these emotions seemed to fuel a strength that couldn't be calculated. As they struggled to adapt, the aliens started experiencing something they had never encountered before: uncertainty. By the end of the second month of occupation, the Zerothians found themselves caught in a game of cat and mouse, chasing resistance fighters through the dense jungles of the Amazon, the desolate deserts of Nevada, and the labyrinthine ruins of bombed-out cities. Their advanced technology, designed for large-scale warfare, proved cumbersome against the guerrilla tactics of the humans. The resistance, small in numbers but growing in morale, broadcasted messages of defiance over hacked airwaves. Across the world, the words echoed: "We will not surrender. We are Earth's defenders." These words spread hope to the enslaved and fear to the Zerothians, marking the beginning of a new phase in the invasion one, where the aliens began to realize that Earth would not fall as easily as they had planned. Winter's grip tightened around the northern hemisphere, and the once mighty Zerothian war machines faltered. Snowstorms, sub-zero temperatures, and relentless winds tested their technology in ways the aliens had not prepared for. Their drones, designed for precision in temperate climates, malfunctioned in the extreme cold, while energy shields weakened and cracked under the battering ice and snow. The aliens, accustomed to conquering arid and tropical worlds, struggled to adapt to Earth's diverse and hostile climates. What they had dismissed as a primitive world now revealed itself to be a battlefield filled with natural traps. In the Midwest of the United States, where freezing winds cut through the flatlands, human resistance fighters exploited the brutal winter. Marcus Reed led a small group on a night raid against a Zerothian supply depot near Chicago. Using the cover of a blizzard, they sabotaged power generators, plunging the facility into darkness. The alien guards, unaccustomed to fighting in such conditions, panicked as their night vision devices failed and the freezing cold seeped through their suits. Marcus and his team moved swiftly, cutting down disoriented Zerothians before slipping away into the snow-covered landscape. This victory became a rallying cry, inspiring other human groups to take similar actions across the continent. Meanwhile, in the Amazon rainforest, another kind of war raged. The dense jungle, with its thick canopy and labyrinthine rivers, became a haven for resistance fighters. They discovered that certain plants emitted natural electromagnetic frequencies, which could disrupt the alien drones that patrolled the region. Using a blend of traditional knowledge and scientific improvisation, the resistance built traps that jammed Zerothian communications, luring patrols into ambushes where their energy weapons failed them. In these moments, human fighters armed with bows, spears, and scavenged alien guns struck with devastating precision, vanishing back into the jungle before reinforcements could arrive. The Zerothians, faced with these mounting losses, grew desperate. They launched a full-scale assault on New York City, hoping to break the resistance's morale by targeting its symbolic heart. Their ships hovered above the ruins of skyscrapers, firing energy blasts that reduced buildings to rubble. But the resistance was ready. Marcus and his team had fortified the underground subway tunnels, turning them into a maze of traps and sniper nests. As the aliens advanced, they were met with a coordinated barrage of explosives and sniper fire, forcing them into close-quarters combat, where their technological advantage diminished. For days, the battle raged, with firefights erupting in the skeletons of office towers and the ruins of once bustling streets. Human fighters, wearing scavenged Zerothian armor and wielding captured energy rifles, fought with a ferocity that the aliens could not match. Even when cornered, they would fight to the last breath, driven by a determination that defied logic. It became a battle not of technology, but of wills, with every inch of ground contested and paid for in blood. In the end, the Zerothians were forced to retreat from New York, their forces shattered and their pride wounded. As their ships lifted off, trailing smoke, they left behind hundreds of their own, defeated by a species they had dismissed as weak. The victory was a turning point, not only for the resistance, but for humanity itself. For the first time, it seemed possible that they could win, not just survive, but reclaim their world. Across the globe, resistance cells began to coordinate more closely, using the victory in New York as proof that the aliens could bleed, could falter, and could be beaten. The aftermath of the New York battles sent shockwaves through the Zerothian command. A species they had considered beneath their notice had fought back with a ferocity that defied all their models and projections. The Zerothian High Council, gathered in the vast halls of their flagship orbiting Earth, debated their next move. Their faces, normally impassive, showed signs of strain-creased foreheads, clenched mandibles, a subtle unease that whispered of their fear. They had never encountered an enemy like this before, one that fought for something beyond survival, one that refused to break even when outmatched. Back on Earth, the resistance continued to press their advantage, launching coordinated strikes against remaining alien outposts. In the deserts of Africa, fighters used the relentless heat and sandstorms to hide their movements, launching surprise raids on Zerothian power stations. In the icy waters of the Arctic, submarines made from salvaged alien parts emerged from beneath the ice to strike at the supply lines that kept the alien war machine running. These attacks, small on their own, combined to wear down the aliens' resolve. Zerothian soldiers, who had never known defeat, now spoke in hushed voices of the fire-eyed humans, the strange and stubborn creatures who turned every battle into a trial of endurance. As supplies dwindled and their soldiers grew demoralized, the Zerothian leaders were forced to confront a harsh reality. They could not sustain their occupation. Their fleets had been designed for swift conquests. not prolonged campaigns against an enemy that adapted faster than they could react. They had come to Earth seeking resources, but they had underestimated the most valuable resource of all, the human spirit. The decision to retreat was finally made, and the Zerothian High Commander, with a voice tinged with a bitterness his kind rarely felt, broadcast the order across their fleet. Across the skies of Earth, the once dominating alien ships began to ascend, leaving behind scorched battlefields and ruined cities. From the ruins of Shanghai to the jungles of the Amazon, human fighters watched, with a mix of relief and cautious hope, as the alien vessels shrank into the atmosphere, disappearing among the stars. Some cheered, while others wept, for those who had not lived to see the day. Yet, amid the jubilation, there was also a shared silence, a moment where humanity realized that while the invaders were gone, their presence had forever changed the world. In New York, Marcus Reed stood in the shadow of a shattered skyscraper, addressing a crowd of survivors and resistance fighters. His voice, raw and weary, carried over the ruins. "We faced the darkness, and we pushed it back. This world, our world, is ours again. But let us not forget what it cost us. Let us build something better from the ashes." Across Earth, similar scenes unfolded, as leaders and survivors pledged to rebuild what had been lost, and to remember those who had given everything for freedom. The Zerothians, retreating through the cold void of space, reflected on their defeat. Their once proud fleet, now battered and depleted, limped back toward their distant homeworld. In the council chambers, the High Commander met with his advisors, studying the maps and battle reports from Earth. They reviewed the human broadcasts, the resistance leaders' speeches, and the symbols of hope that had spread among the human population. For the first time, they spoke not of conquest, but of respect. They had learned a harsh lesson: strength was not simply a matter of advanced technology or superior firepower. True strength lay in the heart, in the courage to stand and fight for what one loves, even when all seems lost. Among the younger Zerothian soldiers, a new question took root. If humans could face such odds and prevail, what did it mean for their own people? Could they learn from this resilience? And as the fleet drifted through the dark expanse, the Zerothians found themselves grappling with the idea that perhaps they had been the ones who were weak, blinded by their own arrogance. On Earth, life began to return, though it would never be the same. People rebuilt their homes, schools, and lives, using alien technology as a foundation for a new era of growth. Scientists dissected the Zerothian devices, turning the invaders' weapons into tools for progress. The skies were monitored closely, scanning for any sign of a returning threat, but they remained empty. And in that quiet, humanity looked to the stars, no longer as something to fear, but as a frontier that they, too, could one day reach. As Earth healed, Marcus Reed, and others like him, spoke of unity, of the power that had come from standing together against an overwhelming force. The battle for Earth had shown humanity its strength, and while the scars of war would linger, so too would the lessons learned, that they could overcome, that they could endure, and that even in the darkest times, there was light. And far from Earth, the Zerothians carried with them a final message, one etched in the fabric of their history. The universe is vast, but it is not theirs to dominate. Some worlds, and some spirits, cannot be conquered.